Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, a feast for crows. They're talking about dead bodies. Chapters 22 and 23, Arya and Alayne. In these chapters, Arya has to decide who she is and who she is not. And she keeps trying to fool people, and they are not fooled. Alayne, meanwhile, seems to be pulling off the fooling pretty well. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
I almost said Some Spoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
All right. Arya's chapter. We're going to jump right into this.
Yeah. I always enjoy, and this has come up multiple times. It's not the first time you guys have heard me say this, but I always enjoy when we have back-to-back chapters that are all like parallels, you know?
Yes. Yep.
I always enjoy that. And so getting an Arya and Sansa / Alayne chapter where we're seeing them both try to navigate their new surroundings and become these people that they're supposed to be now, and how they manage that. And once again, we see, and also, you know, she's older, but we see how what Sansa has been through up to this point in the story and what she's learned is benefiting her, and how what Arya has been through is not necessarily benefiting her.
Yeah.
In this particular way of like losing who they are so that they can become this other person that they need to be, and how to like manage it. So I enjoyed that parallel. And it was really nice to see them both again, especially Arya, because it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has.
It has been a while since we checked in with our girl.
It's been a while since she ate that worm.
So yeah, it was cool to see what's going on here in this house, this temple, and again, memories fuzzy about exactly how much we got on the show of this for her.
I don't remember very much of it, but again, like you said, this was not that memorable on the show, to be fair. I didn't love it. My
memory of the show, and I think we talked about this, you know, I remember her getting to the house. I remember the waif being really aggressive. Maybe my memory of it was a wrong interpretation. Very confrontational is better probably than aggressive, you know? And I think they may have done her apprenticeship kind of very quickly, or condensed it for the show. Yeah. Because it seemed like before we were there very long, she was out on that mission that he sent her on, which was the actress. And that became a whole like plot. But here we really get to see her. Like, what does her day look like at this place? You know, yes. What is it like being in this place where she doesn't speak this language? And what do the people do in this weird little temple that she lives at? And it was just cool to get some of this detail. It wasn't like a lot of like, ooh, like shit's really happening. It wasn't that, but it was still a very enjoyable chapter for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's really. This is just a strength of books in general, but you know, when you translate something for the screen, the day-to-day stuff often gets sort of cut in favor of things that are more spectacular, which I totally understand.
Sure.
But it really changes the whole energy of like a storyline sometimes when it feels like that was such a part of the reason things went the way they did. And I really feel like that with Arya, like there's such a period here of her simply getting her feet under her with this new place and having to like decide how much she wants to commit, because there's nowhere else for her to go, but she has taken names on before and taken her like places, her place in the world, and it's been very temporary, and she went into it knowing that and intending that. And that's not really what she's allowed to do here.
I
and
love
the whole
this
way that feels, you know?
I love how on its face, right, you would think, oh, well, this would be super easy for her because she's been pretending to be all these different people throughout the story. So this should be super easy. But it ends up being very difficult for her because one of the things that allowed her to be all of these other names, Airy and Salty and Weasel and all the other names, right, was because she, in her heart, always remembered exactly who she was.
Yeah.
Like, so she, and so she could pretend to be what she needed to be because she knew inside who she was and what was important to her and what was like driving her, like her murder list and all that. Right. So showing up with a band of outlaws and coming up with a fake name is very different from someone looking at you and saying, you have to let all of it go. All of it. You know? And it turns out that's hard to fucking do, you guys. It's hard, you know? Like, what is it? I know there's probably multiple religions. I can't remember which one I'm thinking of. Is it but I know that there are some sort of theologies where you're supposed to just surrender your complete self, like not have any ego attachment whatsoever. And this kind of sounds a little bit like that, you know?
Yeah, it's like not only do you have to give up your name, but if she's really giving herself up, she has to let go of her vengeance.
Everything, yeah.
And that is all that has kept her going. Like that's it is singing herself to sleep about who she's going to kill.
Yep.
And that's like her identity. And now they're saying, well, no, you can't have that anymore. Yep. That's a lot. Like,
yeah. And I love the sort of almost like counterintuitive, because at one point she wants to kill all these people. And this is it the House of Black and White? No, the House of Black and White was the other one. What is this temple called?
No, this is the House of Black and White.
This is the House of Black and White? Okay. Yeah. So their whole deal, even though it is like, we all know they're assassins, right? They hand out death. Death is their gift.
Exactly.
So you would think having a kill list would be really on brand for them. But no, that is not their deal. And he has to tell her, like, no, you don't get to decide, you know.
Yeah.
Is it the many-faced God tells you, you know, who you're going to kill. It's not up to you. So yeah, I love that sort of being like, well, I thought they would be like super impressed with my murder list. And
I don't really understand. And like, you know, we may find out more information about this, but as of right now, the many-faced God tells you who to kill. And I'm like, all right, well then who just handed over some money to get his dad thrown off of the ramparts of,
right.
You know, like, I don't know. It just felt sort of.
I'm really waiting for that explanation as well. And I feel like it's going to be one of those things where the explanation ends up being like, well, the many-faced God sends the people to us. We don't get to write the names. Someone has to bring us the name. And that is how he, you know, low-key, God and the many-faced God both work in mysterious ways. I feel like that's the only like explanation he's going to be able to give if we ever get it, you know? Because to your point, like, yeah, you're killing people for money, sir. Exactly. So like, I can't wait to see what the spin is on that.
So yeah, this starts off with her. I'm trying to find the spot here where he says, I don't whisper any names, because he's like, what's the deal with that? You lie. All men lie when they are afraid. Some tell many lies, some but a few. Some have only one great lie they tell so often they almost come to believe it, though some small part of them will always know that it is still a lie, and that will show on their faces.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
So he eventually coaxes her to say it's people that I want to die. And she's like, oh, all right, well, we're very familiar with that concept. Is that why you're here? And she says, maybe. Which I did like. Right. She's like not totally sure how much to say.
Right. And she doesn't want to like lie so quickly after she just lied 2 seconds ago. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to be all cagey. And he is just like, well, this is not the place for you then. You came to the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And this is when he tells her the whole thing. Like, it's not up to you. That gift belongs to him. We're just the servants. And then they have a little conversation because she's like, all right, well, which God is he? And we later on, I don't think it's at this bit, but later on when they're talking about the different faces, I think he's telling her the origin of their order later in this chapter.
Yeah.
And it was dark. Yeah, it's dark, you guys. It was super dark, but I loved it. I did. It was so unexpected. I just really enjoyed it. But I guess we'll get there in a minute. But yeah, so we find out that there's a few other people here. Some of them, she thinks they're mute because she never hears them talk. Yeah. And then it turns out that no, they just not talking to you.
Why would they? You don't know their language. I love that Uma the cook is out here talking up a storm.
Up a storm.
Well, Arya's just like, go ahead, I guess. I can't tell what the fuck you're saying, but sure.
And we find out that she has like her daily duties that she does. She is wearing sort of like, I guess, the first level when you get there, her uniform is just very basic. It's not even in the black. It's not even one of the black and white robes yet. It's just like, she might as well be just wearing a house coat and slippers. And, she helps in the kitchen and some other duties. And we find out that there are, there's her, there's the waif, there's the cook Uma, there's some acolytes, and then there are some priests. And she has her leave of this, I don't know what to call where they are. Are they a temple? Is it
I think I'd call it a temple.
Temple seems right. Okay.
Yeah.
So she can't leave, but she has she can go pretty much anywhere she wants except this one floor where only the priest can go, and that's where they go and I guess prepare the bodies and everything. But she's not allowed down there.
She eventually is given the job to clean the bodies up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about how completely unfazed she is by this. There's just no mention at all of squeamishness, none of that.
Oh yeah, no.
If this were written from Sansa's perspective, it would be a real different vibe.
Isn't there a part two? Is that when after she gets the job cleaning? And then she's fucking eating dinner and she's looking at the meat and she doesn't even have to say anything. Yes. He sees her face and he's like, girl, it's pork. Calm down.
We aren't eating the people. I know what you're thinking. And I appreciate that entered her mind because I'm not going to pretend I didn't sort of think about it for a second.
That did not pop into my head at all.
After the bowls of brown in King's Landing. Oh my God.
How about I have completely decided that never happened. That is bowls of brown completely gone from my mind.
Whatever gets you through the day.
Mostly forgetting shit is how I get through the day.
Amen.
So also, she is needs to learn this language. So the kindly man has her and the waif spending all this time together because he wants the waif to learn the common tongue and for Arya to learn Bravosi. So they are spending time together and trying to teach each other. And the waif is picking up the language at a nice little pace.
Yep.
Arya is not doing great with it. And there's a bit when there's two things that happen. There's the language, and they're supposed to teach each other. And then there's also this lying game, because lying, and the fact that Arya keeps lying to the kindly man, and he keeps being like, why are you lying? And also, you are terrible at it.
She's so bad at it. That's the part that's the most embarrassing.
That, and it's in this, and again, I want to say, I love how all of these things that she's been through so far, my assumption was, oh, they're going to lend themselves into this and be like a super smooth transition, right? Like, she's got all these soft skills already, or hard skills, and just needs to learn the soft skills. She's been lying for the last 5 years. Well, however long it's been, 3 years, 5 years, I don't know. So she should be great at it. But she is not.
Nope.
And it makes me think, well, how was she so successful? And then you have to remember, well, she really wasn't that successful, was she?
She was willing, but she didn't win. She did her best, and people kind of like found her endearing, it seemed like, despite herself. Yep. Or she would fool like kids.
She would fool other little kids. Mostly it was a matter of the adults she was lying to just not caring that she was lying.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they believed her. They just didn't really give a fuck.
Yep.
Okay, sure, you're just, all right, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay. You know what I mean? But the experience of reading about it, I started to be like, oh, she's really, she's great at this. She's just fooling. But, she's really not.
Definitely not.
So, and I have to imagine that she is thinking that she's going to be much better at this because of her experience than she actually turns out to be. And so when finally she's just like, how the fuck? How, sir? How? And he starts to talk about various tells. Some people cover their mouths, some people dart their eyes, they look away, all these little things that they do. And he tasked her with learning her face, learning how to change her face.
I loved this.
Right?
I thought this was fascinating.
I did too. And sets her up, go get a mirror and look at all the things you can do with your face. Because they're also talking about disguises as well, And then eventually she ends up playing the lying game, I think they call it, with the waif.
Yes. Where they each say things that are true and not true, and they have to guess which ones are which.
Yeah. And the waif, she asks how old, and Arya answers, and then Arya asks in return. And she answers, I think, 36.
Yes.
And me and Arya both were like, bitch, what? Because even though the book gave us a description of her, and then I remember on the show she was a teenager. I don't know if the age thing ever came up on the show or not. No idea. Can't remember. But I was shocked.
Yes.
I was just like, at 36, I beg your fucking pardon. And it turns out that it's true. And then what does he say? Does he say about the poison, or does Arya? I think he says about the poison.
It's the effect of the poisons. Yeah. And she's kind of like, wait, what poisons? And then she starts to remember some things. And I'm trying to get to the spot where this comes up, because there's some drinks there's the thing in the fountain in the center of the thing. So I am thinking some of that is just the effect of working with this stuff potentially. But I can't find the spot where they talk about this specifically. Ugh, very annoying. I hate when this happens.
Yeah.
When we have a thing and it's just maybe it's past the point where I thought. No, because the talk about the oh no, here it is. I love when she says you must lie gooder. Gooder? You mean better, stupid. And then yeah,
and then
when
she
you call
says
a waif
back,
as a woman grown, she gave him all she was, all she ever might have been, all the lives that were within her. And she says, will I turn out like that? No, not unless you wish it. It is the poisons that have made her as you see her. She understood then. Every evening after prayer, the waif emptied a stone flagon into the waters of the black pool.
I wanted to get more because I don't understand this. I get what we're saying is like, I guess exposure to the poisons is somehow, I guess, supposed to be affecting the way she looks physically. But part of me is like, that can't be it. There's got to be something else going on. Is he like, is it really just that she's exposed to like vapors of poison that's doing this? And something, and sometimes my brain will get stuck on like the most ridiculous thing. Doesn't mean anything. You guys who listen to the show, you know what happens. But the way he says it's the poisons that make her look the way you see her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a weird way to phrase that. Is he trying to
dance around something?
Yeah, and he says, not unless you wish it. And of course, that could just mean literally not unless you want to take the job of pouring the poison into the pool every day. And that's what he means by wish it. But also, not unless you wish it. And I have to remember that these faceless men can look however they want to look, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's not as literal as the vapor of the poisons are affecting her appearance and keeping her from aging. Like maybe it's something else going on. I don't know. I just wanted to put that there. It's not a fully fleshed out thing. It's just like a little brain tickle.
I'll tell you straight up, I do not know the answer to this. Okay. I am not going to say it isn't shared at all. I'm going to say that I just don't remember if it's shared in this book.
Gotcha.
But I am almost wanting to just be like, what if it's really magic? And like basically she gave up her life force somehow and stayed stunted. And because he says she gave him all she ever was, all she ever might have been, all the lives that were within her. And every evening after prayer, the waif emptied a stone flagon into the waters of the black pool. She empties a flagon after prayer. Is this something of herself?
I mean, that's that bit about how she's given up everything that she might have been, all the lives that were within her. Like maybe every day she has to sacrifice more. She has to put more, like every day she has to do this ritual, I don't know. It's just very, very interesting to me. And now that we don't know for sure how much is ever really answered, I don't know, but it's really fun to think about, like, what is really going on here?
Yeah,
definitely. Because, and we spend this chapter with her, and like I said, I really enjoyed it, but there's still so much about the faceless men and what the deal is that I don't know. That hasn't been shared yet. And it's really a because in these books, we talked a lot about how when we first started the books, how there was so much more magic in the books that made it to the show, really,
Yeah.
And when it did come time to deal with magic, the show undersold it, I think, in a lot of ways.
A lot.
Like you would just have a magical thing happen and then everybody would kind of talk about it, but nobody would, like the fucking shadow baby with Melisandre. Like we never really got any nuts and bolts. You know what I mean? We just know that she's a sorceress and she's fucking around with magic, but the show doesn't really tell us where does her power come from? How does she get to this place? What else can she do? Same with Jaqen. Like we see him change his fucking face, but we don't really ever get like, how are you doing that? And again, this is not like shots to the show. They picked the story they wanted to tell and they told it, but I want to hear more about the magics. And it's why I ended up enjoying the brand chapters more than like I ever thought I would. It took a little while to get there. It took a while to get there. But when we started really moving, I was into it. And there's clearly no brand in this book, so but I was here for like the magic.
I'm going to try and back because we have been jumping all over the place kind of with the way that we discussed all of this.
Okay.
Because that part with the waif and what happened with her is far after he finds her with the stuff that she has saved of her previous lives and tells her, you're going to have to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah,
and,
the waif narcs on her.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And I, in the moment of reading it, was outraged, and I somehow made myself forget because it felt like very useless to know that this girl can't be trusted. I was just, I don't want to think about this. Like, and I don't saying she can't be trusted. That's not even exactly fair. Like, there's a point to being here.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. At this point, it's more like Arya can't be trusted.
Exactly.
Like they have laid out the rules of their order, what they expect, what sacrifices have to be made. And she keeps saying she's willing to do that and that she's capable of doing it and that she is actually doing it, but she is not actually doing any of it. And then she's going back to her room and pulling out her little treasures that anchor her to her past, you know? So, like, to be fair, the waif was, like, I called her a narc, but, you know, I mean... Yeah.
Yep. So, and there's this moment, like, when he asked her, because there are these candles.
I love this.
And he says that they soothe people when they are afraid. And he asks, what does it smell like to you? And she tells him they don't smell like anything. But what she's thinking is, Winterfell. I smell snow and smoke and pine needles. I smell the stables. I smell Hodor laughing, and Jon and Robb battling in the yard, and Sansa singing about some stupid lady fair. I smell the crypts where the Stone Kings sit. I smell hot bread baking. I smell the gods' wood. I smell my wolf. I smell her fur, almost as if she were still beside me. I don't smell anything, she said, to see what he would say. And I like that it's not like she's trying to get one over. She's just curious. You lie, he said, but you may keep your secrets if you wish, Arya of House Stark.
That is
he
like...
only called her that when she displeased him.
Calling you by your whole government name.
Yep, exactly.
I love this thing with the candles too. The idea that they are the people who come to this temple to end their lives, that as their last moments are going, they are thinking of all the things that they love, the things that bring them comfort, so that their transition is as like easy and as peaceful as possible. I really fucking love that. If only that were like really a thing.
Right.
I guess the closest we get to that is like morphine. But
what was the book? It was it was the fucking Soylent Green thing where they have like those suicide rooms and you get to pick like what you like, the music that's playing and something to play on the screen and all of this in order to be in the exact like mindset you want to be in as they inject you to kill you. And much less obviously really truly peaceful, because it's not magical. It's not doing the thing that some force knows will come for you. You have to choose everything.
Yeah.
And I am not convinced I would choose well. So I'll just say that. But it does kind of like put me in mind of that a little bit. Yeah. Because that's essentially what's happening here is like people are choosing to die. Yeah, I was thinking about like what the smells would be, and immediately started thinking of the way my grandmother's house smelled when she would like make a big dinner, and that's just the distinctive smells there were with her house. Do you know what yours would be?
Probably something from childhood, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. There's a particular point when I was little, a place that we lived in New Jersey, and I can still like see the apartment. I can still see like the furniture and how the layout was and where all my stuff was, and I can like still picture like details of everything.
Yeah.
And the sort of smell, and also there was always like a lot of people, even though there weren't supposed to be people living with us. My mom always like would let people stay with us if they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, even though it was only a 2-bedroom apartment, I always had like cousins that were there, or an aunt and uncle that was staying with us. And yeah, I can like still see the TV, the big giant, remember the floor console, Johns? The big giant TVs. I don't know. You're like younger than me. You've seen pictures of them though, but they're like TVs that look almost like shelves. You know, they're so big. They sat on the floor. They would have a big flat top, and you would have like pictures on top.
Oh, yeah, we had a couple of those.
Like those and I can still hear the fuzzy static sound that those TVs made when you first turned them on or turned them off. Like I can, and the heat,
that sort of hollow, like boom.
And there's like a certain like static electricity. You could put your hand up to the TV and you would feel it. Like, so all of that is probably what I would be thinking about and remembering. So he tells her after this lie, I don't smell anything. He's like, you know, you don't have to be here. You can go, right?
Yep.
And she is, you know, I don't have anywhere to go. And also, you told me if I leave, I can't come back. And he's like, well, yeah, that's also facts. But if you decide to stay, you got to remember, everybody has to serve here. You can't just be living here. And, you know, he says, we will require your obedience at all times and in all things. And if you cannot obey, you have to leave. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I can obey. We shall see. Meanwhile, she's got all this shit and hiding in her room.
Yep. And I'll say, like, she was never explicitly told you can't have this stuff.
No.
But it should have been understood.
Exactly.
I think she knew.
Yeah, she did. She absolutely knew, which is why.
Yeah.
It doesn't say like that she's hiding the stuff in her room, but I feel like, yeah, she's got it all tucked away. And like she refers to it as like her treasure, which also lends itself to that feeling of like this is her little hidden thing, you know? Mm-hmm. She keeps remembering cereal too throughout some of this. And there's a bit where when he says, you know, she says, you told me if I left, I couldn't come back. And he says, just so. And she says, those words made her sad. Cereal used to say that too. He said it all the time. And then there's a little bit later where she thinks of him again when she's noticing how some of the other people in the house move. Silent as a shadow. And then she remembers cereal again.
I feel so sad over this. The whole thing with Sirio, and, you know, he gave her the coin, but, like, he just didn't, like, prepare her, really. And, like, that wasn't his job, of course, you know. But there's such a disconnect to me between the attitude shown here and what we know of Sirio. And there's also, I mean, there's Jaqen Hagar as well, who there were so many people, and I don't know if you've heard this, that theorized that Jaqen Hagar was Sirio.
Get out.
Yeah. And people who were like thinking that he changed into Jaqen Hagar, and then when he turns into the curly-headed guy right before he leaves Arya, that's like proof that he could have been Jaqen and just bounced whenever he felt like it, and was actually looking over, like watching over her kind of the whole time. So I genuinely don't know. Mostly I don't think that's true, but then there's parts of me that are kind of like, I don't know, that feels like it could have been.
I would like it to be true. I like the idea of it, you know, in a sort of like, oh, that's really sweet. And also, the one thing you want for Arya throughout all of her trials and tribulations is fucking somebody to be looking out for her. And so this theory kind of satisfies that itch a little bit, right? Like, oh, thank fucking God. It wasn't just some random dude. It was somebody who cares about her and was keeping an eye on her. So yeah, I can see the appeal of that theory.
But yeah, I think about him in connection with the House of Black and White, even though there isn't actually a connection, but I still in my mind have like enough of a thought that there may be something to that theory that I connect him with it. So I think I said like he gave her the coin. Jaqen gave her the coin, but that's what I'm saying is like I put them together in my head weirdly. So anyway, but yeah, so she's practicing with Needle and gets caught, and she has to decide how much she wants to really commit. And he's like, look, you are still Arya Stark in your heart. You're not being serious about this. And I know that you think that this is the only place for you, but we could find somewhere else. If you want a family to get married, we could find somebody who would marry you.
I love this. All these options.
If you want to be like worshipped for your beauty, we could find a pillow house and set you up there. The Black Pearl, Daughter of the Dusk. I really like that. Instead of Ladies of the Night, Daughters of the Dusk.
Oh shit. Maybe that'll be the handle I'll use.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like it. Great lords will beggar themselves for your maiden's blood. Get a life, you guys. Jesus Christ. And then he's like, or we could send you back to Westeros if that's what you want. And she's like, I literally just got here from there.
Right? Like, I went through all this trouble. Why would you fucking...
And finally, we don't have a lot of women in our order, because women tend to be life givers, and you can't do both. And she's like, I don't give a shit about doing both. That's not what I want. And he's like, you just like think about that for a little bit, because you're giving it all up. I don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
And she says, I could if I wanted. And he says, well, the first thing you'll have to give up is this stuff, which calls her bluff pretty much immediately.
I mean, he gives her this long, Daughters of the Dusk is a fucking movie. I can't steal that.
Is it?
It's a great movie. It's from like the 90s. It's a really, really beautiful movie, actually. But I don't want to get us derailed. But yeah, if you guys can find it, it's really, really, really good. But yeah, he tells her, like, if you're going to stay, you have to give up. He says the many-faced God will take your ears, your nose, and your tongue. Take your sad gray eyes that have seen so much. He'll take your hands, your feet, your arms, and your legs, and your private parts. Your hopes and your dreams, your loves and your hates. It's a lot. He's asking a lot. And, yeah. I mean, is it too much? What do you think?
I'm sorry. In true fashion, where I just like think of a reference in response to the way that you said something. There's an SNL skit where the joke is too many rappers are on this particular track, and somebody yells, "Well, we roll deep," and Keenan says, "Maybe too deep."
That's good.
Is it too much? Maybe too much.
He's asking a lot. Asking a lot. So yeah, but this is the night after this. She gets dressed and she sneaks out, which she's not supposed to be leaving, but and goes down to a dock, a wharf, a canal, somewhere where some water, and begins to one by one chuck all of her shit into the water, piece by piece. And she gets rid of everything, her clothes, everything. And then the last thing in her hand is Needle. And she knows she needs to drop it. Right?
Yep.
She knows that if she's really doing this thing, she needs to drop it. But she can't. She even tells herself, this is a sword. I can get a million swords. Hell, I found a room at the temple. There was nothing but fucking weapons, you know? But she cannot, because it is a connection to her family, to everything. and even more than everything else she had in total, right? All the other shit that she was carrying around.
Yep.
And so instead of really getting rid of it, she decides she's going to hide it. And I don't know. I was curious if they are fooled by this.
Yeah, that's the question. Because she has proven to not be a good liar.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem very aware of a lot of what she's up to.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything. You know, we know that she got narked on by the waif specifically. He wasn't just omniscient and knew she was doing a thing. But she is sent out by, like, purposefully, right? Like, or is this does she go by herself? Maybe she should, I'm thinking about when she sent to sell.
The clams and stuff. No, this bit, she just, and I love to, she doesn't tell anybody she did this when she gets back from dumping all her shit in the water. But the next day, the kindly man comes to see her and he just knows that she's done it. And this is when he tells her the story of the beginning of their order, and that they are older than the secret city even before the Titan rose, and that they were in Valeria. Yeah. And they were among what he calls the wretched slaves who had to work in the mines beneath something called the 14 Flames. And we had learned, I don't remember where, it might be some like crossover from House of the Dragon, because Viserys was such like, like just went crazy for history. Mm-hmm. So it might have been from there is where I got like the knowledge about the sort of volcanoes of Valeria and the fire and the molten and the blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like all that shit.
That was giving Bill Cosby, but it really was.
But
the fire and the molten.
Oh, damn.
I'm so sorry. It just really did.
So he tells her that, the Valerians had thousands of slaves, and the unluckiest of the slaves were tasked to work in these mines, and it was incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. It was miserable. They were like, it feels like miles into the earth, mining for gold and whatever else. And there also were these like fireworms, which I don't care for this at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That could spit fire. And some grew to be like the size of 2 men or whatever. And in all of this horror and misery, this person, I don't know if we get a name. I can't remember if we get a name for this guy. I feel like we did, but I can't remember. But
I don't think we did.
But he just says, because Arya's like, well, were there slave revolts? Did they did they try to rise up? Mm-hmm. And he says, there were a few, but the
first faceless man was one who did. Who was he? No one, he answered. So no name.
No name. Okay. And then he begins to say that, some people think that he might have been a slave himself, or he might have been like a son of a freehold man. Nobody really knows, but that he moved amongst the slaves and heard their prayers, and they were all praying to different gods, but they were all praying for the same thing. Mm-hmm. And they were all praying for their suffering to end. And this man is observing this, and this is where the idea of that, like, he's the many-faced God. Like, he looks like different things to different people, but it's just the one. Mm-hmm, and he gets sort of fed up with all of these gods not answering any of these prayers. And what he does is on the night he decides, he picks one of the like dudes that's just having the worst time, like just the worst of the worst, the most wretched, and the one who prayed the most earnestly for release and freed him from his bondage. And that was the first gift that had been given. And Arya is fucking outraged.
Understandably.
Wait, you mean to tell me he killed the slave and not the masters? He should have killed the fucking masters. And I am like, same girl.
Mm-hmm.
But and the kindest man says, "Oh, he's gonna do that too. Don't you worry about that."
Mm-hmm.
But that's a tale for another day.
This is not that particular story,
right? And when he says it's a tale for another day, one best shared with no one. And then looks at her and says, "And who are you?" And she says, "No one." And he goes, "A lie." And then this is finally, she's like, "How do you know it's a lie? Is this magic?" And this is when he breaks down about the tells and asks her if he thinks she could learn to tell, when someone is lying. And this is when he tells her that the waif is going to teach you. And this is when he says, first she's going to teach you how to speak, and you're going to teach her. And I think this is when she gets her first black and white robe.
Yeah, now I think so.
She's like, I guess, leveled up a little bit.
Buttery soft as the old red blanket she'd once had at Winterfell, which I really liked that.
Yeah.
How specific that was.
I like that too. There's a mention when she's going back to her cell with all her like trinkets, and she talks about how many blankets she could have and just how she sleeps on a stone, and there's like a mattress with rags.
Yeah, stuffed with rags.
But as many blankets as she could possibly want. And there's also another line where she talks early in the chapter where she talks about how nice it is to go to bed with a full belly every night.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those moments, I was like, oh, this poor baby.
Right.
Finally, like a little bit of like comfort. Finally, like a little bit of something.
I really do enjoy the cook too, because like she'll just like point at some onions, and then Arya goes and chops some damn onions. Right. She'll just be like, "Here's a fish," and Arya's like, "All right, I will bone and fillet this fish." It's just like the very basics. I'm like, man, good sous chef is hard to find.
It really
good for
is.
You, Arya.
I like too that she's been through, like, she's had all these different jobs and picked up all these different like skills, like, like now she does know how to be in the kitchen and do all these tasks. She's done all of this before. She's swept and been a cupbearer and helped, cook and clean and
so then we have the here it is. Are all the other men priests? Were those their real faces? What do you think, child? She thought, no. Is Jaqen Hagar a priest too? Who? Jaqen Hagar. I know no one by this name, child. I asked him how he changed his face, and he said it was no harder than taking a new name if you knew the way. Did he? Will you show me how to change my face? If you wish. Puff up your cheeks and stick out your tongue. There. Your face is changed.
Sir, you know good and well what the fuck we talking about. Don't play in my face like this. He's literally playing in her face.
So she practices this thing and as she is doing this, like, gets moved to cleaning up the corpses with the other acolytes, and it's remarkable to me. Again, there's just no squeamishness whatsoever. All it is her thinking about how much easier this work is than doing the work that she did when she worked at Harrenhal. And I say that like it was just like, when she had that job. She was a fucking prisoner of war. Like, Jesus. But I just love that she is able to see past a thing that many of us would be like, no, I draw the line. Right. I'm not working with dead bodies. I would rather do the hard thing. And she's like, this is super easy. What's your problem? And she remembered a tale she had heard from old Nan about how sometimes during a long winter, men who'd lived beyond their years would announce they were going hunting, and their daughters would weep and their sons would turn their faces to the fire, but no one would stop them or ask what game they meant to hunt with the snows so deep and the cold wind howling.
Yeah. I love this. She says, I wonder what the old Bravosi told their sons and daughters before they left off for the House of Black and White, which is a really interesting question. Do you tell your family, like, okay, this is it, I'm done, I'm off to the House of Black and White? Like, do you have like goodbye celebrations? Do you sneak out in the middle of the night? Do you leave a note? You know, like this place, she tells us too in this chapter that there's always somebody here. People are always coming. They don't have slow days, you know?
Yes.
So you have to imagine that this is a very, very well-known part of the Bravosi culture, you know? But I'm very curious, like, is it openly discussed? Is it, like, quiet? Is it different for different people? Just, you know, wondering what it's like if this is integrated into your culture and everybody knows that this is an option. How is that option regarded, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know, in this country, well, in this world, we have a lot of feelings about people who take their own lives. A lot of moral judgment, a lot of, you know, a lot of shit. We have a lot of shit to say about it, a lot of hang-ups. And I wonder if this is a society that has any of those hang-ups. We also know that Bravos is like a big port city. So there are lots of people from other places in the world. And I wonder, maybe, is it like, you know, when you're from somewhere else and you show up and you're just, and as a foreigner, you're just like, what the fuck are these people about?
Right.
So like maybe the Bravosi are just like, this is just how we do. But there's also so many other people from around the world that are living there. And they're just like, you know, these weird ass cultist people with the House of Black and White. Have you heard about that shit? You know what I mean? Like, what is it like on the ground day to day?
Maybe they get a lot of like suicide tourism.
My God. My God. Yeah, maybe. Who
knows?
Yeah. And but I love this, that moment where she thinks, like, I wonder what they tell their families before they come to this place. And then finally the kindly man is like, all right, well, you're making a little bit of progress with learning to speak, but your accent is a mess. We have to do something else about this. And this is when he says that you're going to have to fucking just be immersed, which is the best way to learn a language. He's not wrong. And he's going to send her to work with a man who sells shellfish. Actually, I guess they're not shellfish. I guess they're mollusks. But mussels, cockles, and clams.
I am never good at understanding I get this way also with like tree nuts versus seeds. I'm never good at telling which is the thing. So, but yeah, she's going to be wheeling a cart around.
And she has to come up with a name. And she thinks that she could be Salty again. And he's like, no, you can't use that because you met those guys on the ship. Remember? And the way you speak is already going to let people know you're from Westeros. Yeah. So, got to be something different. And she thinks for a second, and then she comes up with Cat. And I was like, oh. And then I had talked to you before earlier about having heard about Cat of the Canals or whatever, but not really knowing fully what that meant. So now this is her name. She gave herself that name. And she decides she's going to be an orphan of King's Landing. And he's like, okay, he says just so, which I might incorporate because that's like the third time he says it in this chapter. And I kind of like it. Just so? Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to see what I can do with that. But, and her backstory is she's going to have a father who was an oar master and her mother has died. He took you to sea and then he died as well. So they dropped you off in Bravos, you know, and you've just been on your own. And he says, what was the name of the ship? And she says, Nymeria. And that very night, they put her in the street.
That's it. Very abrupt.
Very abrupt. They give her some clothes that are like, you know, appropriate for her story. Give her, I think, a little dagger maybe. And are like, good luck.
That's about it. Yeah, it's a real sink or swim sort of situation.
And as she heads off into the night on this new task of hers, she ends up reciting her kill list again, which is how the chapter opened. And it is a sad sign to me because you are still not letting go.
Nope.
You're still not, after everything we just went through in this chapter, you are right back where we started. You're not letting go. And then she starts saying to herself, Valar Morghulis?
Mm-hmm.
And she says that 3 times. So I don't know if I'm supposed to feel like, well, she starts with her list, but she ends with that salutation, whatever it is. Is that supposed to indicate maybe she is getting a little bit closer to becoming no one? But they happen so close together, I'm not really sure.
And you want her to become no one.
Well, I think I kind of do. I know on the show she doesn't fully. I mean, the show has her learn these skills enough to be able to employ some of these tactics when she finally shows back up. But she shows back up to Westeros to enact vengeance, which means she never really fully becomes no one because she is dealing out and meeting out death on her own terms, which isn't how it works, right? So on the show, she really doesn't become no one. Do I want it for her? That's a good question. In the moment, I want it for her because I want her to succeed and be good at everything she does, right? I want her to be able to master any skill. But do I really want it for her? Maybe not. Because I do need her to come back to Westeros. And I do need her to kill several motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So
that's my hang up.
So I guess if I'm being honest.
I don't want her to let go because I am not going to let go.
I think if I'm being honest, I'm not ready to let go of this grudge either. So, but there is a part of me that wants her to just have like great success and like release all of the attachments and, you know, and be a kick-ass fucking faceless man. Because that would be like boss.
It would be boss.
But I would have to sacrifice and give up these things to the many-faced God. And I don't want to give up these things.
Yeah, many-faced God. Real entitled. Got a real millennial attitude, don't you?
It's your avocado toast.
That's some imagery right there. The god of death nibbling his avocado toast. He's got a frappuccino in his hand.
And he's reading an article that tells him he should be budgeting better, and that's why he's poor and can't afford a house.
So then we go on to Alayne's chapter. And we start off with her getting dressed for breakfast. And the place is like covered in snow. We find out eventually that like the food situation is precarious.
Yeah.
They've got enough grain, like, you know, shelf stable.
Yeah, they got staples.
Yeah.
But they don't have any of the nice luxuries like dairy or meat. I love that now that her aunt is dead, she has like a much better apartment.
Yes. Everything is coming up Sansa. Because of her aunt being out of the picture.
Peter gave her all of her aunt's old clothes, all of her jewelry. So, yeah, it's quite the come up. I mean, I'm not mad about it. And there's a little bit of like, well, you know, her aunt was so big, her can't fit the clothes. But we, you know, which we didn't really necessarily need that. But it's fine. You've already mentioned to me before. I understand that the clothes have to be tailored if they're going to fit Sansa. It's fine.
Yes.
But we get it. It's whatever. But, she's got this really nice apartment. She's got a balcony. Like, who doesn't want a balcony in their bedroom? Right? Actually, I have that. But because I use this as an office and not a bedroom, it doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, that doesn't count. It's not a bedroom if you don't use it as a bedroom. But yeah, somebody's listening who has a balcony in their bedroom and they're looking around going, oh, maybe I should appreciate this more. Yes, you should.
Yes, you should. Absolutely. I will never forget going to my cousin's house in Atlanta, and they had one of those houses so that the master bedroom had a full like balcony that was like the width of the side of the house. So they could open like double doors opened up, and there was like all this room for chairs and shit, like right off the bedroom. And I was like, this is living. But I mean, they're both like, you know, just living a life that I'm not living. But it's
Is that the house you sent me pictures
Yes,
of?
girl. I sent you a picture of that fucking claw tub, remember?
And the fucking, wasn't there like a baby piano?
Mm-hmm,
Like a baby grand piano?
Mm-hmm. It's like 4 floors. It just kept going. Like the kids had like the top floor that was the whole of the house, and it was like had steps that come up in the middle, so it was broken into 2, you know. And it was just like the playroom for the 2 kids, that whole top floor of the house. And then there was the master bedroom. Each kid had a bedroom, and then on the main floor, the first floor of the house, when you walk in, he had a study. His wife has a study. They have a full dining room, full living room with the baby piano. Just fucking bananas. Gorgeous house in the cutest little neighborhood in Atlanta. Like it wasn't like a sprawling McMansion, right? It wasn't like in the suburbs. It was in not downtown, like midtown Atlanta, on this beautiful like tree-lined street, and all the houses just look
tree-lined streets.
Like you from the outside, it looks like, oh, this is like a three-story house. Like it doesn't look like anything. And then you open a door and you're like, what the fuck?
Secret treasures.
Yeah, beautiful. I need to go visit them.
Yeah. So did they have a pool?
No, they did not. That's the one thing they did.
Thing.
Because the backyard, because it was in the city. So the backyard, you know, I guess they could cut down the trees that were in the backyard and put a pool in, but it really wasn't. I don't know. I don't even know if you're allowed to do that. Because it was like a historic neighborhood.
Yeah, trees are a real touchy subject.
Yeah.
This is making me think about how we need to do an unsober episode about like the unspoiled compound that we're going to build, and like how we're going to have that set up, because it's definitely going to be happening, everybody. Yeah, so if you want to get in on the ground floor, let me know.
It needs to happen soon too. Got to start pulling some resources. I'm ready to try commune living again. It didn't really work out for me in my 20s, but as an adult, I think I could really manage it.
Yeah, I feel like once, people are sort of at an age where they're just like, I'm not interested in any like drama or big life changes. I just want somewhere that I can like have my coffee and read my book. That's the ideal time to start living in a commune. Yep. Yeah. So if those listening would like to be able to just drink their coffee and read their book in peace, and also, maybe have some community gardens and some nice things, we'll figure this out. We'll figure out the perfect unspoiled commune experience.
We really got to get on that.
Community commune. Sort of redundant, but I don't care.
That's like saying general consensus.
Right, yes. I need to figure out a real title for this. Something a lot more catchy and zippy. I'll let you guys know about it.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah. So anyway, I love her looking down on people, being just like, they're like ants. I wish they were ants. And then we could just step on them and crush them. And I'm like, woo, all right. I like this energy though. Good for you.
Yeah, that is this whole chapter. So what had happened was Lysa died, murdered. And the many lords of the Vale are all really salty that Baelish is in charge now. And they feel like he doesn't have a real claim. Robin is not his blood son. He's interloper. He's also fucking way too low class to be Lord Protector of any fucking thing as far as they are concerned. What do they call him in the books? Up jumps or something?
Upstart, I think. Up jumped or upstart, I think.
Right.
Either one.
But meaning like you were really like reaching beyond your station, sir.
Yep.
Like, you're not of the right blood. You're not of like Peter Baelish is new rich.
Yes, very much.
Right. So. And
this is some new money, and it's
right,
embarrassing.
Right. And these people are old money. So they are encamped down at the gate. And this is why they don't have fucking eggs and bacon and are eating porridge, because these motherfuckers are interrupting the flow of goods up to the Vale. This description also of this basket situation to get people up top
doesn't sound great, does it?
I don't like none of this.
I'll pass.
And I don't remember this. Of all the like few visits that we've had up and down here, for some reason, I don't remember this basket thing.
I don't know how you don't.
Maybe
but
I keep blocking it out. I don't like it.
maybe.
I don't like it. It's the fucking thing at the wall. I
Mhm.
just, guys, stop building shit at the top of mountains. Nobody wants to do that. No, nobody wants to.
I don't know. They seem like they're in pretty good shape. I mean, they're being sieged, but
I
it's
mean,
like,
I guess tactically speaking, sure, it's the way to go. But I'm just talking about everyday
but
living.
God, at what cost?
Exactly. I was so fucking upset reading this bit when we finally get to them coming up for the visit. I was like, oh, wait, God, no, what is this? Every time is the first time for me for certain things. My brain is just like denied. Denied. But so she's giving us, like, Sansa's chapter is giving us a little bit of like background on what's going on and all those guys that are down there. And then finally she makes it down for breakfast and young Robert is there. He wants eggs and bacon. I also want eggs and bacon.
No joke.
I am so hungry. I haven't eaten yet, and I'm not going to have time because by the time we get done, I'm literally going to have to run out the door. And then when I get back, it'll be time to record. I'm not going to eat today.
Girl, you got to eat something. Your nails can wait.
I don't know. Maybe I can eat something on the walk down there. If I have something I can eat and walk at the same time.
For your sake.
So there's no goodies, and Robert ends up having a tantrum. It's quite the tantrum.
It is. Although when we are in Elaine's head, she's thinking that it isn't as bad as the last one. So
right. And since his mother has died, he is not. She says he's gotten worse, which understandable. There's also I don't know if it's before Peter and them show up where Robin is also saying that he didn't really sleep last night.
It's before Peter comes in, but it's at that same breakfast.
Okay, so he's telling her he doesn't want to eat his porridge, and I want to go back to bed. I couldn't sleep because I heard him singing. Yeah. So he's having nightmares about Marillion?
Yes.
Saying,
and I gotta say, I have my suspicions Marillion is still alive. I don't know.
Listen, this is when she says, well, we never actually saw a body.
Right?
I was like, why would you say that?
Yep.
There's no need to say that unless you want me thinking about it.
She never saw a body, but she had no doubt about his death. Well, why not? You should, then. I feel.
I mean,
I don't know. Something's fishy here.
She says that she doesn't hear anything, and if he was really singing, she would hear it as well. But we just found out she's moved up to this really high tower, and I think it says it's all the way on the edge. Like, blah, 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 at the very beginning of her chapter. It's like, I moved into the apartments in the Maiden Tower, dressing room, blah, 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 blah. Somewhere it says the Maiden Tower was the easternmost of the Eerie 7 slender towers. So I don't know exactly where that is in relation to this, where Robin sleeps.
Right.
But when she says, I would have heard it too, would you?
Would you?
I mean, but then I don't know, you guys, because later on she also talks about how, or it's actually before this bit, she talks about how quiet it is here.
That's true.
She's like, because there's no, this didn't even occur to me either until she said it out loud. But she's like, there's no horses, and I was like, of course there's fucking no horses up there. But there's no dogs, there's no knights training, all the noise that we associate with like Winterfell and King's Landing and all the other places we've been that are like bustling with people. That is not this situation at all. It's so fucking quiet here. And she says, she could hear the wind moaning and singing or sighing around the towers, but that's it. That's all she heard. So now, as in real time, as I'm saying, would she have heard the singing because she's all the way in this other tower? Part of me is like, well, maybe she would because it's really fucking quiet up there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's really singing. Maybe she would hear it.
And like, what would be the purpose in keeping Marillion alive? I'm not really sure.
I don't.
Like, the motive there is the thing that sort of has me hung up. So,
I mean, keeping the witness to your lie alive doesn't seem like something that Peter Baelish would do, right? Like,
one wouldn't think.
You're going to
get so thoroughly like he has been trained to tell the lie.
Yeah.
And seems well trained.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
If there was any use he could make of Marillion, he would keep him around. I just can't imagine what that use would be. But it doesn't mean that Peter doesn't see a use.
Yeah.
But I just can't think of any good fucking reason to keep this guy alive. But if Peter thinks it's a good reason, he thinks enough of himself to be like, oh yeah, I should definitely do that then. Because I'm brilliant.
Yep. So yeah, there's this whole what do you call it? There's this whole tantrum. There's a moment where the maester seems to be suggesting that they get a wet nurse, and Peter is not supportive of that
Not at all.
And he says, let's see. I suggest you find another way. The boy is fond of sweets, is he not? Perhaps a pinch of sweet sleep in his milk, just a pinch to calm him and stop his wretched shaking. And the maester seems like surprised at the suggestion. I'm not sure what sweet sleep is meant to sort of be here.
That confused me because at first it sounds like you're just plying him with candy, which is like tried and true. People do that with kids all the fucking time.
Yep.
But the maester has such a weird, almost reluctant response. I was like, I guess I misread that.
I'm thinking that sweet sleep might be something like milk of the poppy is basically like a kind of morphine type deal, right? Like,
yeah.
That's where that comes from. Sweet sleep, I'm very curious about, is this like supposed to be like is this a heroin? You know, are we amping up the drugging of the child? Is that why the maester is feeling like uncomfortable?
I don't know. Have we ever heard that before? I
don't remember it. That's not to say that, I don't have a amazing memory these days. So
I wonder if there's a thing like if you obviously I can't Google it, but like
I'm going into the notes from Austin just to see. Austin's in the corner. Let's see. Okay, Littlefinger discusses with the maester Sweet Robin's doses of milk of the poppy. It's worth remembering that poppy extract is an opioid. How much of Robin's behavior could be explained by him essentially being an addict going through withdrawals? That's a question.
That is a very good question. Especially when you talk about the fucking physical, the tremors, the shaking, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he had all of that. Like, they've been treating him with milk of the poppy even when Lysa was alive, right? Like, that was their...
Yes.
So if they've been doing it for his whole young life, yeah, he's probably addicted to it at this point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a mention of like the sweet sleep and exactly what's going on there. So interested if anybody has some theories here. So they take Robin away, and then Peter is left with Sansa, and he gives her some orders about, handling refreshments for the people who are coming up.
And also is like that dress you're wearing.
Yeah, she has gone and put on Tully colors. And when she was doing it, I was like, girl, what are you thinking? But she sees the sense of what he's saying, and she goes back and chooses something a lot more appropriate, and it's still very becoming, but it's a lot less ostentatious, and is just sort of hopeful. There's going to be a dude coming that had seen her once before.
There's going to be a guy who's seen her back home at Winterfell. His name is Bronze Jan, and not only did he see her at Winterfell, but also he saw her again in King's Landing at the Hands tourney. So he's seen her twice. So she's like, this might be a problem. And Baelish is like, you were a little girl when he saw you at Winterfell, and when you're at a tourney, like, it's a million fucking people. The contestants, that doesn't seem right.
I mean, that's kind of...
They are contestants, though, aren't they?
A little bit.
They're not paying any attention. So you should be fine. And I have to tell you guys, I was unconvinced. I did not feel better after this. Like, I didn't feel comforted whatsoever. it ends up
did
being
seem very cavalier.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being not a big deal. Like when he does finally meet her, he's like, "You look familiar," and then she's just like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, then." So I guess Peter was correct, but I have to tell you, I didn't feel comforted at all. His little, "Oh, it's not a big deal. He's not going to remember you." I was like, what?
Right.
And then there's the reminder too that she is, coloring her hair. I love this bit too. At some point, it comes up in her chapter where she's been dyeing her hair this chestnut brown, but her hair is growing out so fast that she has to do it often. And the dye they're using was something that Lysa had gotten from some faraway land. And like, what is the plan when it runs out? I really appreciated that was mentioned, because that sort of the practical things can sometimes be overlooked in storytelling, So I really appreciated that it was like, oh yeah, we don't have an endless supply of this fucking hair dye, by the way.
If only we could just flip a switch and have our hair be the color we'd like it to be and just stay grown in that way. Amazing. Save me a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, I just fucking colored mine. I mean, I don't do it like you do. I don't do it professionally. I just like a box,
I mean, I just did a box with this thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But yeah,
I do my professional coloring once a year, if that, and that's it. Otherwise, it's boxes.
One day, I might treat myself to get my hair professionally colored. I've never ever done it.
You got to do something fun.
Yeah. I guess I have to wait till I don't have a job anymore, because I can't do anything fun at this fucking job. So they start preparing for these guys to show up. And oh my God, there is a bit when they're talking about why, like, what is he going to do with these men when they come up? And also a lady comes up too. And she says, Sansa Alayne says to Peter, well, you could give them Robert. And Peter's like, and the veil? And she's like, they fucking have the veil. And he says, okay, they got some of it. They got a lot of it, but they don't have all of it. And I still have some people. I still have people riding with me. And she says to him, Joffrey gave you Harrenhal. And you're already lord of that. And he says, yeah, by title, because I needed it to marry Lysa, and I wasn't going to get Casterly Rock. But like, she is telling him, almost suggesting to him, look, you already have a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Just be happy with what you have.
And
like,
he
you know who you're talking
clearly lost her mind for just a second, because this is not somebody who's going to be happy with just fucking Harrenhal. Get the fuck out of here with that.
The place that's notoriously cursed. Enjoy. He's lived somewhere cursed already. He's not going to do that again.
And he's like, yeah. What does he say? Oh, it's a real great place. All those halls and ruined towers and ghosts and shit. He said, ruinous to heat, impossible to garrison.
Yep.
That's a real prize I got.
And then she says, you could give it to Lord Frey. Peter laughed. Perhaps I shall. Or better still, to our sweet Cersei. Though I should not speak harshly of her. She is sending me some splendid tapestries. Isn't that kind of her?
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. But
just mentioning Cersei's name makes Sansa like triggers her. And she's just like, first of all, she's not fucking kind. Let's not play. Let me remind you, she scares the fuck out of me. And God forbid if she were to learn I was here. And Peter says, I might have to remove her from the game sooner than I planned.
Yeah.
And then he says, provided she does not remove herself first, and gives a little like fake ass smile, and then starts talking about the Game of Thrones, which is like my least favorite thing. In the Game of Thrones, even the humblest pieces can have wills of their own, but sometimes they refuse to make the moves you've planned for them. Mark that well, Alayne. It's a lesson that Cersei Lannister still has yet to learn. And I said, word?
Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know. I like that he his estimation of Cersei is that if I just give her enough rope, she'll hang herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't even have to do anything. Because it feels like he might be kind of right.
It really does.
And I hate how good he is. Please forgive me. I hate how good he is at this game. Like, I love it, but I hate it too. Because he's just so fucking smug, and that's my least favorite quality. But he's also really smart, and that's one of my favorite qualities. So I'm conflicted.
Yeah, it's like the thing we were talking about with Ted Lasso. Like, when you're this vain and like puffed up, but you can also completely back it up.
Mm-hmm.
How mad am I allowed to get at you exactly? Like, I just feel like I don't have the right to hold it against you.
Right, exactly. Like it's hard to be mad at you about it. Mm-hmm. So then she goes about like her duties, getting things set up for company, and eventually this entourage makes its way up. And she has been given some study materials, so she knows who's who. And she entertains the party, and it is, I don't know if we need to mention everybody, but it's like 8 guys, or 8 people. There's a Lord Redford and a Lady Waynwood. They're calling themselves the Lords Declarant too, by the way. They have given their posse a name. That is endlessly funny to me for some reason. Like, we're just going around naming ourselves. Like, we're just going to crew up, give ourselves a name. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Just like, I like the idea of everybody sitting around and being like, all right, this is what we want to do. These are our goals. This is our agenda. And lastly, what shall we call ourselves?
The perambulators. It's a little, what do you call it? Joke. What's that show? God, I wanted to say Westwood.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm
sorry.
sorry.
My God. Fucking the Wood show with the Timothy Oliphant. Wood.
Deadwood?
Fuck. RoShawn, my brain is melting. It's melting. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
I can't believe you got Westworld came out of your mouth.
I said Westwood.
Oh, you said Westwood. Okay,
that's even Westwood.
All right. That's better. Well, I said it's better, but it's not.
It's not better. It's almost worse. But yeah, there's a whole thing where they like take walks and talk, these dudes, and one of their nerdy group is like, I think we should call ourselves the Perambulators and form a club. And they're just like, oh, or we could just, take walks sometimes. And it's a very like sad, sort of endearing moment.
What a good show that was.
It's a very good show.
I should treat myself to a rewatch. So we have Lord Redford, Lady Waynwood. They come up in that fucking basket. Mm-hmm. And then this Lord Belmore.
Real basket case.
And then they don't give us the rest of the names later. I mean, in this moment, they just name those 3 and then say the rest of them make the climb. And she greets them and entertains them, gives them the cheese and the wine. And let me see. I'm looking for the part where Bronze Jean sees her and says something.
Oh, do I know you, girl? Alayne felt as though she had swallowed her tongue, but Lord Nestor rescued her. Alayne is the Lord Protector's natural daughter. Littlefinger's little finger has been busy, said Lady Corbray with a wicked smile.
Yeah.
And they ask how old she is, and she says 14. I'm no child, but a maiden flowered, but not deflowered, one can hope.
Gross.
Yet, but ripe for plucking soon.
Grosser.
And meanwhile, Anya Waynwood is like, all right, would you fucking knock it off? Jesus Christ. It's pitiful. Honestly, I'm embarrassed for you. And he is like, don't you raise your voice to me, basically.
This Corbray guy comes in to the mix already on 100.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He comes in, he's making the joke about Littlefinger's little finger, and then when they get chastised, he fucking is acting like he might do something about it, tells her to her face that, she tells him to mind his tongue. And he's like, my tongue is my concern. And you should mind your fucking business. And I don't like being told what to do. And you can ask any of the men I killed how I feel about it. Which I thought y'all was I thought y'all was crewed up.
I thought we were declaring.
Right? Like, what the fuck?
What happened, bruh? What you declaring now? War against your own person? Sounds like a bad plan.
And so I'm watching this and I'm just like, what the fuck's up with this guy? Like, what? And so finally, after like a little bit of rest and like refreshment, it's time to actually go and see Peter himself, who's been waiting for them in the Solar. And she, Alayne, Sansa, escorts them in. I love this bit too. They're like chairs that have been seated. I think Sansa's the one who helped set them up. And instead of setting the table with like a chair at the heads and then the 4 on each side or whatever, all the chairs are set up on one side, and then there's like two on one side and then the rest on the other. And Peter is sitting in one of the 2, and then the rest of them like plop down, except one goes and sits right next to Peter. Who is it that sits next to him? Is it Corbray or is it Baron? I forget who it is. Where is it? Let's see. Peter was seated at the trestle table with a cup of wine. Everybody sits down. All save Nestor Royce, who hesitated before walking around the table to take the empty chair next to Peter. So it's Royce. And then Corbray doesn't sit. He goes and stands by the hearth. And then the hearth. Ugh. What is hearth? Is it anything?
No. Thinking of hearse?
No. I think I'm just saying it wrong. With like no reason. Just wrong.
Who needs reasons to be wrong? Not me. I do it for free.
And so then we get into what ultimately turns out to be a giant fucking farce, but a charade, a ruse. But we don't know until the end.
A ruse.
So it opens with Peter being like, I read your letter and I could not agree with you more. We do need to protect the Vale against evil counselors and whatever else they're talking about.
He is so annoying.
Give me a pen and I will sign my name to this letter as well. It's I don't know why, you guys. He's so much fun. Like, I should be really annoyed, but I'm just not. He's a lot of fun. He's gross. I don't like the way he leers at Sansa. He is very, very smug. But when he is, like, doing his thing, and his thing really is just, like, talking circles around whoever he's speaking with, right? Mm-hmm. When he's, like, in his bag, it's just really good.
Yeah, it's this is like the kinds of things that made me so crazy about the show, Peter. He was such a goon in comparison. Like, this guy has a real like flair that is subtle enough that the people who don't know it's there don't see it. Mm-hmm. But if you know it's there, it's so obvious all the time.
Right.
And just like, how does anybody get fooled? But you can understand how they get fooled because he's so good at adjusting exactly how he flares. Yep. Depending on who is in front of him.
Yep. He meets each situation as it is, right? Mm-hmm. And adjusts to that specific situation with the people, the location, everything, which is like an incredible skill set to have. I do not have it. When I was younger, I was able to, not in the way that he can, because I was never really good at manipulating people, but I was able to adjust to whatever my surroundings demanded. Mm-hmm. But he is just really expert at it. I love this too. One of the dudes is like, we didn't come here to fucking bandy words with you. And Peter says, what a pity, I do so love a nicely bandied word. Come on, y'all. So they get down to business. And these guys are coming in real hot. They are holding all the leverage as far as they can tell.
Yeah.
we're not going to have, one says we will have naught of you, which is fucking harsh. But yeah, basically, we don't want anything from you. You need to be gone.
Except to leave.
To fucking, yeah, you need to go. That's what you can do for us. You can get the fuck out.
Go on, get.
And one of them is like, you have hair. I love how people keep being like, you already have hair and all.
Yeah. Everybody's just willing to pretend that means anything.
Right.
You know, and he's the only one who's like, can we all just be real for a second and admit that's nothing?
What's so beautiful about it is because they think so little of his station that they all know Harrenhal is shit, and they think he should be happy to have it.
Yes.
Right? I love that. Nobody else would be fucking happy with it. None of them, rather, would be happy. They would all be like, that's just beneath me. But they think he should be grateful that you got this. How dare you want more than that? You know? It's just giving, you know, we've already done more than you deserved.
Yes.
You better be happy with what we gave you. And he's not. He has no interest in being happy with that. Nah, he wants way more. So it sounds bad for our boy. You know, it doesn't sound great. These guys have got, well, before we start talking about what they have, they also tell him that the Riverlands need a lord. Riverrun is besieged. Bracken and Blackwood are at open war. Outlaws are roaming freely. Like, you should be down there managing that shit. And Peter is like, that sounds awful. Why would I want to go be doing any of that?
You make it sound very tempting. I'm afraid I must decline. Greatest regrets. Signed, Peter Baelish.
What is it? Sorrows. What was that?
Sorrows, prayers.
But, so he's like, yeah, nah, I'm not doing any of that. I have shit I should be doing here, as a matter of fact. So, also, I've got this little young boy I'm taking care of. Would you have me drag him down to this horrible, land, this fucking hellscape you just described? Am I supposed to take this baby down there?
And not strong, even
right?
Like more than most babies would be.
And this is when they're like, oh, he's not going nowhere.
Yep.
And we find out that I think it's Jan Royce, who is from some place called Runestone. It has been decided that he will ward Robert, and it's all been agreed to. And Peter is just like, oh, really? Your place? Why not these other places?
Mm-hmm.
And one guy pipes up, all of these would be fine. And, he's going to visit all of them eventually anyway. It doesn't matter. And Peter's like, oh, he will. Really? Eventually? Is that what they're telling you? And before it really, gets kicking, Lady Waynwood is like, if you're trying to fucking get us to be infighting, just, dude, stop. Yeah. It's not going to work. We have already discussed this. We are all on board with this plan. Runestone works for all of us. So fucking just stop with this. And I was like, oh shit. Well, that plan just got the kibosh real fast. Right? What will our hero do? You know what I mean?
Oh, God. Stay tuned next week, kids.
It really felt like that. So there's some more talk. And then Baelish says that, Robert does need some young people to be around because there's going to be other children that are being warded or fostered or whatever the fuck they call it at Runestone. So the idea is that these are going to be better people to help raise Robert into the leader he needs to be, right? Mm-hmm. These are going to be the people that show him how to be a man, show him how to fight, how to lead, how to rule, all of that stuff. And Baelish is like, you know what? You're right. He does need friends. He does need companions. And says that I have asked some of my friends to send me a son. these guys are not impressed by these names.
Yeah, they are sure not.
The names that Peter drops are not like, they're not working the way one would hope a name drop would work.
It really does look like he's on the back foot here.
It really does.
All of it feels like, ooh, it's not going as planned.
Yep. And then somebody says to him that Peter is as bold of a thief as they have ever met. And Peter's like, I don't steal. I'm not trying to steal anybody, but I think that Robert and this kid should be friends. This kid is, I don't know if this kid is any. Oh, he's talking exactly to this lady. He says, you have a boy at your place. Maybe you could send me this kid.
I forgot that he does.
Right?
That.
And the woman is like,
I could generously board him here. Oh, boy.
And she's just like, yeah, no, that's not happening either. And it's really kind of like, well, they have reached sort of an impasse because they want Robert and they want Peter to leave. And Peter is not doing either of those things. So it feels like, okay, well, then I guess it's going to be war. And this is when they tell Peter that Lysa Tully, and the fact they call her Lysa Tully is being like, she don't go here either, quite frankly.
Yeah, they say flat out, like, she's not of the Vale. She got married into it. So what she said that she's going to do with this doesn't actually matter. Yep.
Which is wild to me. But that's how that shit happens. And I mean, it happens in real life too. Like, that's the thing. Once you're dead, you don't get a say over anything anymore. Yeah. And all the shit you said was going to be how it was going to be when you were alive. Once you're gone, there's no way for you to enforce that. People can either like abide by it and honor your wishes or choose not to. But that shit is completely out of your hands. It does not matter anymore.
I hit my leg. I was just thinking about sometimes if you write down that you want a business to go to somebody, you should make sure that they look like they have been underlined and not like their name has been
crossed out.
Just a little thing.
But what if you're the eldest boy, Natasha?
Eldest boy.
Oh my God. What a fucking moment. What a moment for the ages.
I love you, but I can't stomach you. That was one of the realest lines in that whole show. My God. Anyway, sorry guys.
So things are starting to get like testy, right? They're telling him to his face that he don't have no say here, that his dead ex-wife had no say here, and that they're going to do what the fuck they want to do. And there's a bit where he says, they're talking about Lysa. I think it's the guy that had wanted to marry her. And he's like, I had wanted to marry her myself, as did this guy and that other guy. Corbray never even left her side for half a year. And if she had picked one of us, we wouldn't be here right now. Right? But it happens, she didn't pick one of us. She fucking picked you. And that's a problem for all of us. And somebody says, Robert was John Aaron's son. He belongs to the Vale. And Peter, being Peter, is like, I thought the Eyrie was part of the Vale. At this point, people are getting a little tired of his shenanigans.
Yep. He's lawyering them. And they're basically like, all right, look, we tried to be nice about this.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of dues ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets really tense. Finally, one guy is like, we got a fucking 1,000 people each at the foot of this mountain. And if you need it to be, we can have many more show the fuck up. And Peter is like, are you threatening me with war? But like super calm though. It says, did not sound the least afraid. And then one of the guys is like, we're going to have Lord Robert. So we, if we got to go, we got to go. And then this other guy, this Corbray guy, pulls out his sword.
Yeah, he turns around and is like, all right, I'm sick and tired of talking in circles. Are we going to fucking kill this man or not?
Yep. And Peter's like, I am not armed. and says, your apple eater holds a blade. Give it to him. And then everybody is like, dude, what in the actual fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And there had been a conversation earlier about guest rights.
Mm-hmm. And Bronze Jan is like, are you a fucking Frey? What is your problem? Which, like, you know, your reputation is shit.
It is shit now.
Oof.
Yep. And everybody is just like, this is not how we do. This is shameful to all. Like, you pulled the sword. We didn't, but you have shamed all of us because we came together as a group. And now you put all of us in the mix with this bullshit. And they're outraged. They're put your fucking sword away. The lady is like, this is unseemly. The guy, like you said, are you a Corbray or a Frey? And somebody is like trying to tell Corbray, like, calmly, don't do it. What are you doing? Put it away. This is not going to get anything for us, right? And this guy, Corbray, his sword is a name, Lady something. I fucking forget. But but when they tell him to calm down, he says, my lady has a thirst. Whenever she comes out to dance, she likes a drop of red, and I simply cannot.
He really thought he fucking workshopped that alone in his room and finally got there and was like, oh, right. Wordplay.
I cannot wait to drop this shit. Everybody in the audience is going to be like, woo. Like, oh my God, it's so over the top. It is so over the top. But they cannot let this. They can't let this happen. This group can. This will completely delegitimize them, all their claims, shame them. They cannot let this happen. And they step in between this guy and Peter. The Corbray, who's still about that action, we think, as we're reading, starts to tell everybody else in this group basically that they're cowards and says that they should have called themselves the old women. And then puts the sword away and like shoulders some guy and stalks out of the room. Mm-hmm. And now the turntables.
I hate you. Oh, how the turntables.
Because with that one action, it has completely shifted the power dynamic.
Yeah.
Because they have all, by this one guy's action, been sort of like implicated, yeah. And if word gets out that they violated guest rights, their shit is going to be is meaning, their name will mean as much as the Frey name means. Mm-hmm. And they simply cannot have this. So when this guy stalks out, the first thing that happens is they are telling Baelish, you have to fucking forgive us for that. And he just says, must I?
Yeah.
Y'all brought him up in here. And then they start backpedaling. It was never our intent. We weren't part of that. And Baelish just says again, you brought him here. I could fucking have you arrested if I wanted to right now. Like what just happened was so egregious that I could have you arrested.
Yeah.
And everybody just starts, you promised us safe conduct, you can't do that to us. And Peter is in this position now where now he's the one that gets to decide on the mercies. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I did promise you safe conduct. Be fucking happy that I have more honor than some people have. Which, quite frankly, you cannot be serious right now. But for the moment, very well done.
I just think of the narrator. He did not. So yeah, I have read your declaration and heard your demands. Now hear mine. Remove your armies from this mountain. Go home and leave my son in peace. Misrule there has been. I will not deny it, but that was Lysa's work, not mine. Grant me but a year, and with Lord Nestor's help, I promise that none of you shall have any cause for grievance. So you say, yet how shall we trust you? You dare call me untrustworthy? It was not me who bared steel at a parley. You write of defending Lord Robert, even as you deny him food. That must end. I am no warrior, but I will fight you if you do not lift this siege. There are other lords besides you in the Vale, and King's Landing will send men as well. If it's war you want, say so now, and the Vale will bleed.
Mm. And then we get back. The next line is that Alayne could see the doubt blooming in the eyes of the lords. All of them being like, "Oh shit, overplayed our hand, and this dude fucked our shit up. This dude completely fucked us."
Yeah, and
they all start. Maybe a year's not so bad. Maybe if we give you a little time, if you gave us some assurances, we could maybe be, convinced to agree to this. We don't really want war, they start saying. Like, just a minute ago, y'all was feeling like you could make all kinds of demands. And everything has shifted completely. And it is just really spectacular to read. So much fun to read. And so, yeah, eventually they're all just like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. And Peter says, and if I haven't set things right, I will step down willingly, which I don't believe for a second, but he tells them that. And
I would like that in writing.
Right? And they do not ask for it in writing. They they say out loud, I call that more than fair. Sir, what? I just like how quickly the energy shifted. It's just, So this is what the deal is. They ended up agreeing to give Peter a year to get shit together. They're going to lift the little siege. Peter is saying, I want friends. I don't want foes. I can pardon you all. I will even do it in writing if you want. Even Lynn, I'll pardon. Because his brother, this is genius. His brother is a good man, and there's no sense in shaming an entire house from the bad actions of one. So now we have a benevolent Peter Baelish.
Yes. So generous.
And Lady Waynwood is like, can we have a minute to talk? And Bronze John is like, it's a done deal. There's no need for us to confer. He won. He fucking won. I don't like it, but all right, Peter, you have your year. I hope you use it well. And he says, not all of us are fooled. And then he leaves. He opens the door so forcefully, but he almost takes it off the hinges. And the rest of the crew stay and have like a little bit of dinner, which is not great because they've been blocking the fucking food delivery.
I look, you guys know how I feel about my food, and I really, I can deal with eating corn and bread and whatnot if I've got butter to slather on it. Maybe.
If I don't have no butter, then
You want me to just dunk it in water?
Ugh.
I've got some onion broth. Ooh.
Oof, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard. One of the worst parts about reading like any like Russian literature, right, is like how depressing the food is. It's it's always like turnip broth and sunflower seeds, and it's just like oh my god,
beetroot. A lot of beets, so I understand. Never got into beets myself. Are you a fan of beets?
Girl, no. You've heard my beet story.
Have I?
Yes.
What?
So my grandma told me that beets were sweet.
What a fucking... I hate adults doing that to kids. Don't...
Yeah.
Look, I know what you mean. You're not wrong, but you know what they think when you say that. Stop it.
Yeah. So I took a big old forkful, and it was disgusting. I do not like them. I still don't like them. And people are like, oh, you haven't had them this way and that way. Okay, maybe, but no, I'm not interested. My aversion to beets is so strong that a couple of years ago at Thanksgiving dinner at my in-laws, they had the cranberry sauce, but it was like not the fresh made kind, the slices that you get out of the can.
Yeah,
right.
Worse. Canned vegetables are a crime, except for corn. One exception.
And somebody handed me the plate with the cranberry sauce, and I thought it was a plate of beets. And I said out loud at the dinner table, "Oh my god, no!" Like really, like way, like with too much. I said it with too much, and everybody at the table was like, "The fuck is wrong with you?" Rightfully so. And then I had to tell my family, oh, I thought those were beets.
Oh, I love that so much. You reacted like it was alive and
I
gonna
really
come at you.
So yeah, they have a very humble feast, and Alayne is watching everything, and she thinks he bewitched them. And she's laying down at bed thinking about the day. And and then it says, she could not have said where the suspicion came from, but once it crossed her mind, it would not let her sleep. And finally, she's tossing and turning, and it's so bad that she gets up and dresses and goes to find Peter. And she says, I have to know what will happen in a year. And he says, well, Redford and Waynwood are old, so hopefully one or both of them will be dead.
Mm-hmm.
This other dude, he's going to get killed by his brothers, most likely by the young one who already killed the other guy. This other guy, Belmore, who's the old guy who had to come up in a basket, he's corrupt and he can be bought. Bronze Jan Royce is the one who says, you didn't, not all of us are fooled, and storms out and almost takes the door off the hinges.
Mm-hmm.
That one, Peter is like, he's going to continue to be hostile to me, but he's going to be alone, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
And lastly, she says, and what about Sir Corbray, who's the one who pulled the sword? And the candlelight was dancing in his eyes. Sir Lin will remain my implacable enemy. He will speak of me with scorn and loathing to every man he meets, and lend his sword to every secret plot to bring me down. And that's when she understands that her suspicion is correct. And she says, and how shall you reward him for this service? And he laughs. He's so proud of her. And he says, with gold and boys and promises, of course. Sir Lin is a man of simple tastes. All he likes is gold and boys and killing. So yeah, y'all, it was a setup. It was a con.
Yep.
From the jump. Long con. The kind that he likes to play the most.
Very much. Yeah.
Super satisfying. I enjoyed both of these chapters. But both good stuff. But I really loved watching that whole little fucking charade. Yeah.
I really enjoy the feeling of pride that's coming off him at the fact that she figured this out. Mm-hmm. There's just a real sense of like, oh, look at you. Good for you. Yep.
I expected him to literally say something, but it was just like the laughter was just like said enough that he didn't even really have to say the rest. Like, I just feel like we all get it, right? We all understand how pleased he is with her in this moment. And there was a bit in the part, I think it's in the beginning of the chapter when he shows up when they're having breakfast, and I think she has to like give him a kiss or something, and it's still weird. And there were a couple of little lines throughout this chapter where his fixation on her is still a thing.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And it still makes me wildly uncomfortable.
I'd rather break my fast with a kiss.
Yeah,
and she gives him this like dry cheek peck and says, how dutiful.
Yes. Yeah. So I still don't love that. I haven't changed my opinion on that aspect of the storyline, but it was more subdued in this chapter than it has been other times.
Yes.
So I was able to just kind of like hand wave it away, which is necessary for me sometimes in these books where there are just things that come up that I'm just really not here for. And I just, right?
Yeah.
Because if I think too hard on that, then that will almost become all I can think about when it comes to him. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's, that's the thing about a lot of characters in these books is that you have like the flaw that it's so significant that you're like, oh, it comes so close to just ruining all the fun things about this character.
Yep.
And I'm just like, that's just people, isn't
it? Yeah, it really is, like if I focused on like anything, quite frankly, in these books, not even specific to character, but just to some of the devices in the book, if I spend too much time thinking about things like the children in these stories, the sexualization of the children, the constant ending relentless threat of rape that looms around every page in these stories. You know what I mean? It's so off-putting that it's enough to make me like put the book down. If I, you know what I mean? So I have to, I have to just kind of, all right, I got to compartmentalize that a little bit, because it would make the reading of these unbearable to me. Because that's how like awful I think it is.
And I mean, the fucking dude that he's teamed up with is a fucking pedophile.
Yeah, he likes little boys.
So, yeah.
Well, it doesn't say little boys. It just says boys, but I feel like it's fair, right? He doesn't say men. He says gold and boys and killing. So.
Although there is a tendency, like, for people to call any, like, if they're referencing basically gay men who are, like, I'm thinking like twinks, to call them boys, even though they're grown-ass men. So I'm still thinking he's a pedophile, but I think when somebody's like, well, and he fucks boys as well, I don't always necessarily go, okay, he means that guy is a pedophile. I think that means he's bi or he's gay. The way that Littlefinger says this, though, I think that's a pedophile. Yeah. Like, that's just definitely the way I took it.
I think it's not a leap to go from someone who, is already depraved enough to like be a murderer for hire and, likes killing people and doesn't seem to have a moral compass to then imagine that they also would not have any problem with child rape, which doesn't seem to be of a huge, like it's sort of frowned upon in Westeros at least, but it doesn't, it's still a thing that's out here happening all over. So
yes,
I don't know. I would have preferred if that had just not been part of the deal, period. But I guess also if you're trying to make a character be as like despicable and untrustworthy and whatever, then you just throw that on top of their characterization, and it's like there you go. He's awful. Yeah. But I did really enjoy these two.
All right. Well, I'm glad. It's fun to, I feel like, was it the last one or the one before? The one before, where we had Jaime and Cersei back to back. So we had some like siblings on top of each. Oh boy, I really didn't mean to go in that direction. That was not intentional, I swear. But we did the, sibling back to back and then another sibling back to back. And that's kind of fun. Yeah. I really like also the fact that this is titled Alayne. I don't know why, but I kind of like that.
I did too. I would have to admit, it threw me for just like a split second. I was like, what? Yeah. But I do. I like it. I liked it again too, right? Like it makes will Arya's future chapters be Cat? Or will they still say? A good question. Will they still say Arya? This. It's like just a really subtle sort of like of course she's still Sansa, right? She's still Sansa Stark. I get that. But she's also like not anymore. And I mean that also like just she's not the same person she was. Yeah. Because of what she has been through. And she might make her way back to herself at some point in these stories and be Sansa again and really be who she is. But for now, that's not who she is anymore. And obviously, superficially, like the lie is Alayne and she's Peter's daughter and everything. But I mean, like on a deeper level than that, like this new person, this person that looks out the window and sees everybody as ants and thinking that she could crush them, Yep. Yeah, she's moving into a different person, a different.
And I really enjoy it when she's choosing the new clothing as well. She is tempted because there's dresses that would like really show her off, and she is smart enough to pull back and be like, that is not appropriate. I need to really keep things in mind. And she manages to pick something that is appropriate to her station but is still massively flattering and work within what is smart. And just like little things like that where I'm just like, look at that growth. All right.
When we talked earlier about how Peter is able to adjust himself to fit whatever the situation is, right? Like she's learning that skill For this situation, I need to present as this person. Okay, how do I do that? Oh, I'm going to wear this dress and not that one. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Good stuff. It's good stuff.
Talk about having to like leave yourself behind, Arya. Your sister's really doing that as much as she can, I guess.
Yeah.
With being surrounded by people who, or at least one person who knows who she is and other people who would know who she was. Anyway, okay. So I just want to say hi to our one new patron this week before we wrap up. This week it's Tori Franklin.
Hello.
Thank you so much for becoming a patron. I am not using the air horn because Sam is asleep right next to me and I just can't bear to make him jump the way that I did the last couple times. But thank you, Tori, so much for joining us. Also, if you would like to become a supporter, go to patreon.com/unspoiled and sign up to become a patron. You can also follow me on Patreon now, which is great. And I really recommend doing that if you want to get updates about stuff that's going to be happening, events, new shows, all that stuff. And I also shared on there the link to a GoFundMe to raise money to pay for the treatment that I've had to pay for the puppies. I still haven't paid that off. And then Sam recently had this bad infection and we are really struggling badly. So if you are able to contribute, that would be so appreciated. And thank you very much to Katie Horn for setting that up for me. And, you know, I didn't have to lift a finger. She was just like, you need help. Let me do this thing. And I was like, okay. And then sort of like forgot about it, let it go because I was so overwhelmed. But now it is time for me to start reminding folks about it and posting about it. So, and I think that's about it. There's just one last thing. And I talked about this at the beginning of Ted Lasso, but, due to the fact that I am going to be sticking with Crowdcast instead of moving to YouTube like I had planned, and Crowdcast is going to be raising their prices so much, I am going to have to raise Spoil Me prices from $50 an episode to $60. And I am also going to have to, they're instituting a 40-hour per month maximum of recordings. And I usually do about 50 hours. And that means that I'm going to start having to cut back on some of my lives. And so the first casualty is going to be the live recordings with RoShawn on Fridays, because that is just not very well attended. We usually have like 1 or 2 people, and the ones with Miles, I have like usually like 5 or 6 people. So just wanted to alert you guys about that. And I'll be trying to get things a little bit more organized on the Patreon, and I'll start selling Avatar episodes from there instead of from my website as well soon. So I'll just let you guys all know when that's happening. But again, patreon.com/unspoiled. And I think that's it. Is there anything you just want to mention?
No, ma'am.
All right, kids. Thank you all again. Thank you to Austin for helping us with notes. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.